Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a superhero movie review and I'll be having a look at Captain America the Winter Soldier. So I've just come back from the midnight screening and let me tell you, this movie is terrific. Now I'm going to have to give you a very brief plot summary here because to tell you too much is to really sort of take away the enjoyment you'll get from watching this film if you kind of go into it relatively blind. I mean, I had some idea about what it was, but I kind of deliberately stayed away from reading too much about it, and that's kind of what I'd recommend if you're going to go and see this movie. But to give you obviously an idea, the movie takes place obviously post Avengers, and it's basically Cap now is essentially an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and he kind of wants to do right by the world and serve justice and all of that. But it seems that he's at odds with kind of Nick Fury and Black Widow, even though they're kind of on the same team. He kind of feels their methods are kind of not exactly aligned, so to speak. Now, as the movie progresses, there's a disruptive influence within the kind of the infrastructure with which he serves, and out of this mix, you have this mysterious figure, the Winter Soldier himself, who's basically a Terminator-like figure who is kind of a character from Cap's past, come back to haunt him, so to speak, and he is like literally a kind of almost like a cyborg Terminator type figure, and there's some fantastic action scenes I'll come on to again in just a second. And pretty much the majority of movie is kind of, if you've ever seen this show Alias, this is the best sort of comparison that I can sort of say for a more sort of recent sort of show or film really. So it's kind of like that. There's lots of red herrings, lots of kind of, the trust is going to be the issue here. You don't know who to trust, and your kind of expectations are sort of twisted about, who's kind of, who's manipulating who and who's telling the truth and things like that. And basically, Cap gets put through the ringer and has to fight a whole bunch of people, and he teams up with Sam Wilson, who now is the Falcon, who is not an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's kind of really just from the military, which I kind of really liked, and that was a really good relationship. And obviously you've got Black Widow in there for a fairly major part as well. Now you probably don't know the story, so that's all I'm really going to say about the story. So let me just tell you let me start with the negatives, because there's a very not much to say in regards to negatives about this. Now there's one thing I would say which is about the actual movie itself. And another kind of negative I would say about that it kind of relates to the whole Marvel universe. So the negative about actually, this is a really relatively minor point. There's a point about midway through this film where there's basically an exposition dump from another character from the previous Captain America film, shall we say, and it really only served to sort of further the plot and kind of get our heroes on a kind of different track, whilst it's kind of almost like a James Bond at the moment where you have the bad guys sort of telling the heroes the plans, and if they hadn't done that, basically it would have worked out as a whole different kind of situation. So that was a bit of a silly kind of cheesy 60s James Bond moment, but that was kind of the only real issue I actually had with the actual plot itself. Other than that, this film is, let me tell you, nigh on perfection. The only other issue I have with it is when you compare this to stuff like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I also say the original Captain America film, it seems such a different type of a world. Now, if I compare it to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is kind of running concurrently, and you sort of see the way S.H.I.E.L.D. agents act in this compared to how they act in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I mean, here they are all business. I mean, there's no messing around. They're absolutely serious and get the job done. Whilst in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they're kind of so much more goofy and cartoony. And it's kind of the same with the original Captain America movie as well. Obviously, this is different directors. This is the Russo brothers here, who most notably kind of, I guess, known for the TV show Community, which is a sort of a comedy show. But this is the most serious Marvel film I think that we've had so far. In regards to how sort of straight it is, if that makes sense, which is interesting here because as I say, the Russo brothers are known for comedy, but I would say this is the most serious movie out of what we've seen from the Marvel Studios. And again, Captain America, the first film, when you watch this one, it makes the first film seem that much more goofy. But anyway, so like I said, that's kind of not necessarily a criticism of the film, but it just makes the sort of surrounding ones that I guess are immediately sort of next door to it, if that makes sense. So Captain America itself, and obviously the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because it is such a S.H.I.E.L.D. heavy movie, it kind of makes Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. look pretty damn childlike in a way. So, but that's the only criticism I have about this movie. Everything else in this movie, I mean, this is not just one of the best superhero films I've seen, and I'm going to say it's better than The Avengers. I mean, The Avengers is probably more of a kind of fun movie, if that makes sense, but for a film, this is a better film than The Avengers, I have to say. And I'll actually compare it to, if you want to kind of get a tone, I would actually compare this more to kind of a Batman Begins type of film, to be honest. But it's such a good action film. I mean, it's so well paced. The acting is fantastic. Robert Redford, as you know, is in it. Had a much larger role than I was expecting in here. I thought it was going to be just a cameo, but he actually has quite a substantial role here, which was fantastic. And like I said, it's been compared to kind of like these trying to get the spirit of these sort of 70s spy thrillers. Which it does, and like I said, it's very much of a twisty, turny plot. You do have to sort of pay attention to it. But everyone's on fire. Chris Evans does a fantastic job of taking this very straight character and really kind of making you root for him. And he has some quite heartfelt scenes, I think, as well. Which, again, some people may say are a bit schmaltzy, but I was lapping up. I loved it. We get a lot more backstory of kind of Black Widow, and we kind of get a lot more of her character. I definitely say this is her best film out of the kind of the ones that she's been in. I think, as I mentioned previously, he has a fantastic relationship with Sam Wilson, who has a kind of very natural bond. So between the three of them, it's very good. You've got Nick Fury's got a lot more action sequences and has a bit more to do in this movie. The Winter Soldier himself is probably not on screen as much as you'd think, but when he is on there, he's absolutely electric, and the action sequences with him breathtaking. Truly amazing, but not just him. I mean, we have kind of Backdrop the Leaper as well in the kind of the beginning of the movie, and even the action scenes with him were pretty good. I mean, the guys, George St. Pierre, I think the actor's name is, and he's a well-known martial artist. It's such a fantastic film, and not just for a superhero. Well, I guess maybe not a criticism as such, but I think it dials back on the kind of the costume sort of side of things, if that makes sense. So you don't get quite as much of the kind of the superhero vibe from it. It's more of a kind of a spy thriller, but with some people have kind of got enhanced abilities. That's the best way I would describe it, compared to a kind of a straight superhero movie. But that's all I'm going to say in regards to spoilers. There's a few name drops that you'll kind of hear for the movie if you're kind of a Marvel fan. And the end of this film really does change the face of what would happen in the next kind of range of Marvel films, maybe with the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think is going to be very far removed from this movie. I actually saw it in IMAX 3D, so it was certainly worth seeing in that. Overall, fantastic action movie. Even if you're not a comic book fan, see this movie. I promise you'll get a kick out of it. I'm going to give this one a 9.5. Pretty much a perfect action film, I would say. Anyway, have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.